Hello, baby. Welcome to the new year.
Ho, ho. It's Baby New Year.
I was gonna say I'm Baby New Year, but I guess no. That's you have his correct voice.
Yeah, because I mean, it's like when is this coming out? Like the what
first week or second week of January,
first week?
Something like that. Yeah,
that baby's all grown up now. He has a deep booming voice.
he has reverse Benjamin Button disease.
Well, because I mean, if he's a feeble old man by December 31st, then the aging process
proportionally
has to be pretty crazy.
Yeah, proportionally.
Proportionally.
Well, yeah. Well, by the way, this is Style and Direction, the menswear podcast.
This is Style and Direction.
Without the stuffiness, I am Ethan M. Wong.
I'm Spencer Oddie, your other host.
That's right.
And what are we talking about today, Ethan?
We're talking about proportion.
Well, I thought we were talking about propulsion. That's why I prepared all these notes on rockets.
On rockets.
Yeah, on rockets.
How about a podcast on propellers?
How about propeller hats? We didn't talk about that in the episode about hats.
Yeah, B headwear, more like P headwear.
More like P headwear.
More like peeing headwear.
Yeah. And do you want to talk about the topic for just a second while I shut a door?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Go ahead and shut that door. So, I've had so many complaints lately that we riff too much, and baby, you're probably still gonna hear some more. But today we are talking about proportion, silhouette, and everything in between those two terms. I would say this is probably one of the most important things we're ever going to have to talk about, because
it's really the most important thing we're ever going to have to talk about.
I mean, okay.
And we're not going to have a thing about like curing cancer, you know?
Yeah.
So
exactly.
This is as important.
We'll leave that up to City of Hope, but this is the City of Fits.
This is the City of Fits. That should have been the name of the podcast. That's a better name.
Yeah, than Style Direction.
Yeah, City of Fits, COF.
Check your lease, man. Check where you're living, dude.
If we ever get in a Barstool-esque situation where we have to change the name of the podcast, the revamp will be called City of Fits.
Now, is this a parody of City of? Do we just copy City of Hope's iconography?
It's a send up to City of Hope, yeah. So it's it's a medical thing too.
Yeah,
we're like, well, we're doctors. We pretend to be doctors on the podcast.
We're fit doctors.
We're the fit doctors, and we have stethoscopes. And then on our live shows, we diagnose people's fits with.
Oh no, you're bricks.
Yeah,
you've got the clap. More like you've got the,
lupus. You've got lupus of the cardigan.
I like how I just said that we were gonna get into the topic and we're just doing this now.
We're just bidding.
Say, well, what if the theme song? I would have to recompose it, but it's the song "City of Stars" from the hit musical movie La La Land. But then
that's one of Nicole Kidman's favorite movies, according to the AMC intro thing.
Yeah, that and Creed, I think.
Creed, Jurassic World.
God damn it.
I love that ad so much.
Sometimes it feels good to cry in a place like this, you know? It's like...
It's just so funny to see Nicole Kidman go in there all wide-eyed, and then it's like, it's Jurassic World. You just get to see Chris Pratt. What's his name? I used to know this because it was funny to know it.
I'm sorry, dude. It's Owen Grady, man.
Owen Grady. There you go.
Yeah, white name. You know,
it is a white name.
I also love how, again, in Jurassic World Dominion, James Cromwell, famous Babe farmer guy, as in the movie Babe, he's kind of a tasty dish, but he's in it and he's British. Which is because he's supposed to be like John Hammond's secret partner in InGen, and he's just playing like a John Hammond-esque character, because it's like the whole thing's like a reboot, right? And you see him, he also has like a cane with like a little amber mosquito in it, and he's like, "Hello, welcome to my Jurassic World."
I'm excited if the next movie is all just dinos walking around having a good time.
Yeah,
I think I'd enjoy that one. I never actually saw the second Jurassic World movie.
Man,
I did not like the first one very much.
You're gonna hate the second one.
If the third one is all just like T-Rex in the middle of Times Square or whatever, ripping shit up. That sounds fun.
Well, what if it was like, Jurassic what if we used Colin Trevorrow's script for the Duel of the Fates, but it was Jurassic Park or Jurassic World?
I think that would be great. Who would like? Wait, it's the Domhnall Gleeson kills himself in the script, right? So what would the equivalent be of that?
I don't know, a Doctor Wu, dude. It's gotta be Doctor
Okay,
Wu.
so he sees all the dinos like dying or something, and he's like, "Oh no!"
And he, instead of using a lightsaber, he uses like a T-Rex tooth or something. He's like,
yeah,
because he loves dinos so much, right? And
he loves them so much, and to see them all die.
He kept cooking them up in his lab.
he's the dino cook. He's the dino chef.
He's a doctor, but they call him the Dino Chef.
That's gonna be the next sequel, Jurassic World: Dino Chef.
If you guys love these movie episodes, you're gonna have to watch our bonus episodes, because this is what's gonna be.
Also, we're improving. We're only 5 minutes in, and we've already gotten to the topic. We're only bidding a little bit.
I will say I hate movies where they turn side characters into villains, and Jurassic World is again a big thing where they take a guy who was in it for like 5 minutes, who just says information like, "Oh, all the dinosaurs are female," to being like this mastermind behind InGen, and he gets off on creating he's also just creating versions of the Indo Rex, whatever it is, because like the first one is the I-Rex, Indominus Rex, and then the second one is the Indoraptor. So the third one is going to be what, Indocompies, like the little tiny ones that like eat people and like bite. That killed Dieter Stark, played by not Pete Postlethwaite, who's like the German guy who's always like playing bad guys.
Oh,
he's in like a bunch of movies.
There's a lot of Germans who only play bad guys.
Well, I mean, like it's like the famous one. Like he's also in like that VW commercial where they pimp someone's ride and they fucking destroy it and turn it into a fucking Volkswagen. You know his name? Fuck.
I can't think of his name.
I love it. He also plays a Russian dude in the show Blacklist, and he's just doing his German accent. It's kind of
German
like how
Russian.
Yeah, well, it's kind of like how in Dr. Carter, in Agent Carter, there's a bad guy who in the comics is Dr. Faustus, and he's supposed to be a German guy, but in this version, because there's no Hydra and Leviathan is Russian, he's played. It's like a Russian guy. You remember this, right? And he's
of course I remember this.
The character is German, but like he still has it. It's like, oh, his name is like Dr. Johannesson, and I'm like, that's not a Russian name. Like that's like a German name or something, or at least Swedish.
It's a crazy world out there. He's Swiss.
Well, it's kind of like how like in Kimmy Schmidt, like there's the joke is like the guy's like his name is like Big Dong or something. He's like supposed to be like Vietnamese, but played by a Chinese or Korean actor. I forgot which one it is. But then I'm like, the guy, to me as an Asian, you can kind of recognize what people look like. I'm like, that guy is not Vietnamese. Like it's like
the joke doesn't land.
Yeah, it's like or Filipinos or whatever. But like, and to the rest of the world, Asians are Asian. So I guess to regular people like me, Russians are German.
There you go.
Yeah. Hello, I am Klaus Gunnarsson. I don't know.
Skunarsson?
Yeah, exactly. That's actually kind of a Swedish last name.
Yeah, anyway, remember that name, everybody.
Yeah, we're going to bring him back.
Yeah, like all the other sin will return.
Avengers Endgame. No, in James Bond and the Ghost Window.
The Ghost Window, yeah. Right. Adding more lore to it.
Anyway, we're talking about proportion today. And again, like I said, it's probably the most important thing that we have to talk about, because this is something that is inherent to like every detail. We're going to get into this a lot during the episode, where this is not just about like, oh, like torso to leg proportion. It's also like, oh, fucking like lapel to chest, lapel to shoulder, quarters to whatever. Everything is proportion. And
we're going to be introduced. You remember the button pocket harmony? We're going to be introducing a million more harmonies to you today. Right. There's you gotta have your notebook out. Yeah, because there's a lot of terms we're introducing. That's
right. And so today we're going to talk about proportion. Obviously, a lot of that has to deal with silhouette as well. So it's kind of like the more general thing. And so I wrote down a definition of proportion that probably doesn't make sense, and it's just I'm word vomiting it. Yeah. But it is I don't know when I wrote this, by the way, but it's like
you went into a trance.
Yeah. I gotta get into my trance. Cake boss. Second episode or third episode of Comedy Bang Bang, one of those ones. But it is the proportion is the balance between different visuals on a form. and it has to mainly do with length. And by that I mean like the length of like things, right? So like
Okay.
for example, it's like how long or short a torso is, how long or short a leg is. It could also be like horizontal lengths, like how wide something can be. But I think with wide, I tend to think of more of like silhouette, which tends to deal with more about like drape, and again has to do with more of like the wide or slimness of a form. So again,
I think you could. I think the proportion could do with width as well. Because if we're going to be talking about like garment proportion, like
sure,
something with
yeah,
super wide
absolutely.
lapels but super narrow shoulders or something like that could look a little strange.
Yes, exactly. So we're gonna get into all this today, and again, the reason why this is important is because tailoring is kind of all about proportions and silhouette.
Yeah.
Like it's inherent. I mean, I guess most fashion is, but tailoring, it's about like, using the ideas of like the shirt, jacket, tie, and suit, and
Hmm.
then playing with that. That's how you have different house cuts. That's how you have different, you know, eras, for example. Like each era has different, ideals of what proportion or a good silhouette is. And to us, this is what makes us decide between what makes a garment, again, I'm using quotation marks here for all just, but what makes a garment good or bad, okay? This is how
Hmm.
we kind of view things, and this is why, like, I think, like when I think of like a channel like Gentleman's Gazette, where they like kind of just talk about like they recently had, not recently to you guys, recently to us because we're recording this in the past, but they had like a video about like the 50 top blazer brand or ready to wear
Or
brands that
yeah,
you could probably think of.
and
It
that was a lot.
Yeah, we only watched like 10 minutes of it because it's like a 30-minute video. But like in there, of course, they talk about like fabric and like the cut. But of course, they don't talk about like, oh, well, this brand has different lapels than this brand. And you
Hmm.
might think, okay, lapels aren't proportioned, but they definitely are.
Well,
Like it
I think this goes to like when people go to like YouTube for menswear stuff, usually
yeah.
they're like, okay, I want to get the most bang for my buck. I'm like interested like they're interested in like the technical aspects that like they think define like quality rather than the aesthetic stuff that we've talked about. That we this is
We've
like our
built
big
on.
thing.
Yeah, I mean,
This is our
we
whole
had a
thing.
whole.
Is like you could talk about like fabric quality and all that, and that's I'm not saying I like low quality fabric. Don't get me wrong, but it doesn't matter. Like if it doesn't matter what it is. If I don't like how it looks, I'm not gonna wear it.
Yeah, we've had this in like the whole details episode, like where details matter, where it's like, yeah, you could have like a Laura Piana fucking fabric or Xenia, whatever, but if it looks like a J. Crew 2-button jacket, like what's the fucking point? Like it's just
Yeah.
not. And again, you think, okay, like, and here's the thing, there are good 2-button jackets. I can think of like B and Taylor that has one, but the one that I normally think of is like the one that's like very, as we get into it later, like kind of top heavy, where like,
Mm-hmm.
the shoulders are maybe kind of padded or instructed, but and the lapels are normal, but the button placement is placed kind of low, and then the jacket is cut short, so it just looks like it's just so much at the top, and then,
And
like
then yeah,
it just
everything's too slim.
yeah, it's just really weird. And so like that's one thing that we think about. Like it's not just about fabric quality, but it's about proportion, and that leads with drape and design, and
Yeah.
so that's why this is probably, again, we're gonna try to talk about this. This is so visual, and I haven't even written the essay for it yet, and I'm scared to because this is crazy,
There's a
you know.
monster at the end of the essay.
Yeah, and I can't. It's like a tiger. Wait, what's the one
Yeah.
with? There's like an old medieval like poem about like opening like the door, and it's like a tiger or the princess. I think that's
I
literally what
would.
it's called.
I was just thinking of there's a monster at the end of this book, and it's Grover.
Oh man, Grover.
Yeah.
Right, that's what he sounds like.
That's yeah. I mean, it's been a while since I've heard Grover, but I think that's what he sounds like.
I will say, quick plug for Sesame Street, but the account is so wholesome. It's like you need it for like a like like, oh, this is very nice. Like I think there's like a lot of like Elmo going like, have a great day today. I'm like, thanks Elmo. Like that's
I
really nice
like
of you.
yeah. Quick shout out to Sesame Street. If you're a fan of this podcast,
Yeah, I
you're
mean
gonna
also
love
like
Sesame Street.
you're a fan of the street, right? Your daughter Cecilia.
Elmo, we live in a cultural ghetto.
What did you say?
What's this line? I
You know,
wanted
like
to.
Sesame Street was created to mimic the environment around us. So you would Sesame Street is more of a cultural ghetto, wouldn't you say, Jim?
There was a thing where like CPAC was like doing that unironic. Well, the CPAC and then a bunch of people who got mad at CPAC were doing this like unironically, where they were talking about like Big Bird and Elmo like they were real. It was weird. It was related to the vaccine thing. It was it was very strange.
I think, yeah, because there's like a segment where like Elmo got the vaccine, I think, or something like that.
Right, I think a Big Bird. And
Oh.
then like there were, yeah, it was funny. It was a funny time to be on the internet.
Yeah, I love it. Well, anyway, so one other good thing about proportions and silhouette is how it can play into how stuffy or slouchy you want to be. And maybe this could be more about like
Mm-hmm.
formal or whatever. But like for example, you could have like a slouchy suit, soft shoulders, generous lapel, it's drooping, wide legs, but then wear it like kind of formal or yuppie. You could wear it like with a contrast collar. You could do it with a, spread collar if you wanted to, whatever. Or you could have like a padded structured suit. I could think of like Edward
Mm-hmm.
Sexton, but then make it like wear it slouchy. And so
Yeah.
like all of this kind of, like suits aren't all the same. And so again, the way that you can differentiate things other than fabric is how the tailors or the brands have designed it to have certain proportions and certain silhouettes. And so that's kind of why how it's so important,
Mm-hmm.
and as guys, as Spencer said, we think about things very aesthetically, not only, but like that's kind of our whole thing. Like
Yeah.
this is the entire thing. So this is a good episode to kind of get, if this is your first time,
I
we
mean,
welcome you.
welcome. I hope we didn't do too many bits. We're like 15 minutes in. We're getting pretty into it. So I
Yeah,
think we're
exactly.
hitting a good pace.
Yeah,
But
this is a very
I mean, I think
self-referential episode.
proportion
Yeah.
might be one of the number one things that determine whether or not something looks good on you. Like,
Yeah.
or just whether or not like a garment looks good. Is how it, like, I guess proportional harmony, which we'll get into in a little bit.
Absolutely, absolutely. So let's talk about like what plays into proportion. Let's kind of like dive into like a specific garment. So with a trouser, yeah, you might look at it as just pants, but to us, there's a lot of different ways to look at it. Like you can see about how
It's much more than two tubes.
two tubes, baby.
Yeah.
That's a good quote. Can someone please write that down?
That could be like a trouser brand. Like if you're like a made to measure
tubes?
like trouser business. Yeah, two tubes.
Two tubes is a rebel, right? No, he's not a rebel. He's a part of Saw Gerrera's partisans.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah, he's like an
Two
alien.
tubes.
He's got
Yeah.
No, I'm serious. I'll put MJ. Remind me when you edit this too. Let me put a picture of two tubes at the bottom of the end.
Okay.
So it's like
Get ready for two tubes.
By the way-
This is a little Easter egg. If you haven't listened to it, you won't get it.
By the way, a guy in Reddit was like, when he asked me about like advice on how to start a blog, I like responded to him like with a voice message. He goes, "Oh man, voice reveal." I'm like, I was like, "You just revealed that you don't listen to my podcast." So, so he's gonna be confused when he sees two tubes at the bottom.
He's gonna not know what the hell's going on.
Exactly.
Maybe we're gonna look at his outfit though, and maybe be like, "Whoa, this guy understands proportion." So it's like we're including it as a bit, but also like you can learn from two tubes.
That's He's got his little like particle rifle and his
Yeah.
but like on a trouser, yeah, it's not just two tubes of wool or cotton, whatever you want, or linen. But think about stuff like as in terms of like rise. Like that's kind of a big thing with trousers, right? Like how high or short the rise is, and that plays into where your legs technically begin as a part of a suit, right? And is it at your waist? Is it below the waist? Is it above your waist? Like that's kind of like, again, all kind of big things there. Is it a slim fit? Because a slim fit high-waisted trouser will look different proportionally
Yes,
than something that is
absolutely.
generous. Or even like if it's a wide leg fit but no pleats, that also kind of plays into it. Does it have a crease in there? So like that all, again, it's all like, it's like visual proportions. It's not just like proportions laid flat measuring wise. It's like what does it look like? Again, yeah, like I said, look, width of the leg opening is kind of a big thing too, right? Or your hips, the whole circumference of the trouser going down, right? Is there a taper to it? Because you can see that at a certain point with a wide leg. Sometimes you don't see how tapered it is, right? Because you can have like a 20-inch like hip and then like a 10-inch, but because it's so big,
Yeah.
like it doesn't look like it's anything, right?
And I mean, you had a really fun time with some trousers.
Oh,
I
yeah.
guess when the episode releases last year in 2020. Sorry, it's 2021. I don't know what year it is, but yeah, have we talked about that on the podcast? What you learned from there? Do you have any practical advice you can give based on
like making
your
pants?
Yeah, you're making pants, making tubes.
Well, it's like what I've learned is like, it helps to wear or thrift like a lot of different pairs of pants and then maybe measure them just to see like what works for you, and then compare
Hmm.
that with like your body measurements. I think there's measuring guides online. Like I can think of like the Lords of Wool stuff, which I wrote an essay about, which is actually also out by the time this episode is released, about how like I work with Kyoshi to make those like pairs of pants, and how again it's like to get what you want you got to kind of know this kind of thing, and kind of realizing what doesn't work for you, and not and
Hmm.
obviously not a lot of people are comfortable with spending that much money on different pairs of pants and trying stuff out and having a good tailor as well. But it's good again to kind of start out with ready to wear and kind of figure that out, and thrifting or buying vintage Polo Ralph Lauren is a great way for that. So that's also one reason why we kind of know all about this kind of stuff, because I have thrifted a lot. I have altered a lot. I have like done a lot of
Yeah.
tricks before. Like for example, I didn't have a lot of high waisted pants that I could find ready to wear, or even custom. So I would buy like pants that were too big for me at a thrift store, like just like an inch or something, nothing too crazy, and then just kind of get it tailored, and then kind of just take in the waist, take in the seat, take in the hips to make it more fitted
Hmm.
toward me,
I mean,
everything
yeah,
like
that's
that.
how we both. I mean, yeah, I've been to
Yeah,
the tailor to like anytime I bought a suit, I would have to go to the tailor to get it like
yeah,
radically
yeah, yeah.
transformed.
It's
So
crazy,
it
and
it teaches
luckily.
you a lot.
Yeah. And another thing is length too, right? Where like I
Hmm.
remember one day, like I said this on the podcast, where like I thought I wanted my trousers to look like my friend's, and he had a 7-inch leg opening, and it looked really wide on him because he was so skinny. So I got that in mind, and as you can expect from a man who's like 160 pounds and is 5'8", and and not like 100 pounds and like 5'2", they did not fit me like they did on him. And so,
Yeah.
and that has to do with like length and everything, and tapering and all that kind of stuff. So like there is no set like length that you can just get across your trousers. Maybe you could do inseam, that might work, as opposed to outseam, because again different pants have different rises. But um we can take it even a step further than that. So with a length of a trouser, if it's tapered, it will break earlier because of how
Yeah.
it catches not just on your ankle but on the top of the shoe because of like your laces or your tassels or whatever. And so most people, when they have a slim trouser, they typically need it to be a little bit shorter for it to drape cleanly, unless you want to have all those breaks at the bottom. As a counter example, or the opposite, a wide leg trouser needs to be um, well, a wider trouser would be lower or have a longer inseam for it to kind of drape. Because if it's too short, it looks a little too cropped, right? Like you don't,
Hmm.
it doesn't look right. Like when you see, and I guess I'll get into this later, but like when you look at like cartoons or like illustrations where like the form of someone looks so clean because it's a drawing, you don't want to draw all those wrinkles on there. Um, the best way to do that is to kind of have it as close as possible to the end of the shoe without breaking, and with a wider leg pant, or to get that, you need a trouser that's wider to do that.
Yeah. I
And
think
it's
I think
yeah.
a hidden message of this episode is like why wide fit is good,
Yes.
because something I think is that it's much easier to achieve an overall like proportional look if you like stick to wider and like not crazy wide, but like moderately wider fits.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, it just go unless you're like actually like a very slim person, slim fit and slim proportions can be kind of tough.
And of course, this is all relative too. Like when I think of like the bad slip fit, I think of like H&M suits or J. Crew
Hmm.
Ludlow suits, which I'll have plenty of pictures of in the show notes and the essay. But we can also talk about like the good slim fit too, um, with like husbands, where it's not really
Yeah.
slim fit, but it's slimmer than like say like what I wear, you know, like and those are kind of flared, like they're kind of slimmer in the thigh, and then they kind of reverse taper or widen as they go back out, you know.
Hmm.
Um, and or even like regular pants can do that too, where like if it's just slimmer in the thigh but it keeps going straight down, that can kind of affect a flared look because of how it fits in the thigh. Versus, I mean, obviously your thighs are bigger than your ankles, so
Yeah.
unless you've got
It's
weird
just
ass
gonna play
ankles.
with the fabric and maybe make it flare out a little bit,
Exactly,
even if it's
exactly.
not cut flared.
Right. And so yeah, trouser length is kind of a big thing too. Like there's a reason why, like, again, a wide leg pant just needs to be longer. It doesn't need to break. It just needs to be longer than you would with like a slimmer pant, just because of
Hmm.
how, again, of how it breaks. So that's trousers. With jacket proportions, I mean, again, obviously the big thing with jacket is the length, like the proportion of, like, again, like literally
Yeah.
like the hem of the jacket, the quarters. And that's something that I'm really into. I'll get into like my specific preferences later. But again, where that jacket ends, or even where, I mean, it kind of plays to where your sleeves end as well. But like that kind of torso length plays in conjunction with your trousers. You know, if a
Hmm.
jacket is shorter, you know, it can look, it can make your torso look smaller and your legs look longer. Some people like that. It also has the effect of making your hips look bigger, because
Yes, yeah.
if it's too short, you see the pant, the hips of your trousers or whatever, and that's kind of an odd visual to see. And well, not odd. Some people like that, like Tom Brown can do that, but maybe
Well,
that's the point, right?
and then I mean the other thing is like when they're too short, it can actually like flare out at the hips. Like the
Exactly.
fabric like flares out a lot more, and so you not
Because
only
it's
see
not
the
draping anywhere. It's forced to end.
exactly.
It's forced to end there.
So it's one of those things like, you can prefer short jacket lengths, but maybe we're just right, you can admit it.
You can tell us. Kiyoshi's killing us right now, I bet you. But see, like with a longer jacket length, you just literally get more drape to it. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? So it's just there. And the thing is, right? Probably a shorter jacket probably works better with slimmer trousers, because you don't want it to look kind of, because I guess a wider trouser might make your make your hips look wider because of like the excess fabric. So a short slim jacket, you know, might do that. But then of course you've got like the 1930s collegiate look, where
And
that was kind
I
of the
mean,
point.
I would say it. I think yeah, if you're wearing the slim or the shorter jacket, like slim pants, like slim fit, that can work. But again, only if you're like actually very skinny.
It's also, I mean, again, this plays with into shoulders and jacket
Hmm.
length and the drape and everything like that. And because, for example, like a J Crew suit looks just too short to me because it's so slim, and it doesn't really work. But as opposed to like a 30s collegiate style, which I just alluded to, the shoulders are wider and there's more drape and shape to the body, so it naturally kind of goes back out, and it goes well with a wider trouser, so it doesn't look too cropped, even if the jacket is short.
I
You
mean, the
know?
other thing is a lot of 1930s jackets, and this is kind of generalizing, but a lot of them didn't have vents, and so they were fitting a lot closer on the hips too. So that's, hey, vents, that's something to think about too, how that affects the
Yeah,
proportions and
literally.
fit of your
Yeah,
jacket.
and the drape of it, you know, and hopefully the illustrations and the images that we provide are enough explanation for what we're trying to talk about here.
Yeah.
But yeah, again here, like, you know, again you can see how certain jackets, you know, certain things, um, kind of all play together. And even then, like, there's also like your lapels and the gorgeous, because that plays into how wide something can be perceived to be, right? Like
Hmm.
a sack suit um can be kind of tubular or wide, um even though it's a slimmer cut than, like, you know, a 40s jacket, but that's because the lapels are so small, so it is visually more chest on it, right?
Yeah. And I mean,
um
higher gorges always just like draw my eye upwards.
yeah,
Where if you look at like again going back to like 1930s cuts, which were supposed to give you kind of a like very broad athletic figure.
yeah.
They had the lower gorges, which kind of I don't know. They drew your eyes like outwards. It makes your chest appear larger.
And of course, you had the wider shoulders. You
Hmm.
had, you know, a wider fit overall, so it kind of just made sense. You know, I can't imagine, like, you know, there's a good example of like a Ludlow suit. Oh no, sorry, the Crosby suit, the athletic cut one, which was basically the Ludlow with just a little bit more room, and they widened the lapel by, like, I guess half an inch, and it looks odd because it's like a wider lapel on like a very slim body, narrower shoulders, and of course a shorter jacket. And the classic J. Crew drop the button stance, where it's not, maybe it's not a drop button stance, but it's just because the jacket is so small. So again, it looks so top heavy. It just looks like the jacket's just kind of, it looks like it's missing something. It looks like there's missing
Hmm.
length to it. It just looks like there's missing drape and etc. Silhouette,
Oh,
whatever.
that's the other thing. Never shorten your jacket.
Yeah, we'll get to
This
that.
is a quick
Yeah.
thing, but yeah,
Don't do,
don't you dare
don't
do
do,
it.
yeah, exactly. And so all of that together, you know, it's just, we're kind of explaining what we like, obviously, and it's very based in like 30s and 40s proportions, and
But
a
it's
lot.
there's science behind it.
Yeah, and the thing is also like a lot of our favorite tailors do this too. And there's a lot of rules here again where like you can have a drop button stance, but you can't have a short jacket because of how cropped it'll look. Which is why, like, Sitio Japan, they have a lower button stance, but the jacket length is pretty normal, so it doesn't look like you still get the effect of like a deeper V,
Yeah.
But
I mean, that's what the kind of thing that he saw, like the 40s and 50s, the like 70s, the like 80s, 90s. They are longer jackets with lower button stances.
so it kind of talk about proportion, it kind of
Yeah.
equalized out in a sense. But yeah, one big thing that plays along with this is like waistcoats, and that's kind of like a fun thing because no one today knows what a waistcoat should look like anymore. Because
No.
okay, I get it, people don't wear them, you know, but
But people can't deny the allure of a three-piece suit because
yeah,
everyone
it's great.
everyone wants it, but no one can do it right anymore.
Exactly. And one thing with this is that waistcoats are supposed to be like kind of like a male corset in a sense where it's supposed to fit close to the body and it's supposed to end higher because it's not a jacket. To me, a jacket needs to go past your pant rise and kind of like you should be able to grab it, and it should go past the end of the fork of your fly, because if it ends right there, it just looks too short. It just looks weird. It looks
Yeah.
like, I don't know, like your jacket doesn't end at your hips. It has to go past your hips, dude. Anyway,
It's a jacket. It's supposed to be long.
and so the opposite of that, a waistcoat should be short because it's meant to cover your literal, like, just your torso. Okay, here we go. Waistcoat should fit your torso. A jacket covers more than your torso. Like, that's
Yeah.
kind of what it is. So anyway, a jacket that goes too far, like past your belly button, like again, it should go past your belly button, but like not too much past it. But when it
Or a
goes like,
waistcoat or vest that goes past your belly button, you mean?
yeah, exactly. If the waistcoat like starts to hit like go past like your pockets, like I'm trying to think of like what it is.
I think it mostly depends on where the pants sit. So it's just it's in proportion to the pants.
Yes.
Like the rise of the pants. Because I just want it to end so my waistband is not like peeking out, but it's just like barely covered or something.
Yeah. No. Yeah. Exactly. So it should cover the waistband, and so like yeah, waistcoat should be snug, should be cut short for high waisted pants. And the thing that sucks is that even today, with the resurgence or the popularity or even just the awareness of hashtag menswear and more tailors, people still have waistcoats that are too long.
Yeah. I mean, we talk about they should be like snug, but it's like, yeah, they should like, I don't know, maybe all my waistcoats were like too tight, but I feel like the ones that looked good like felt tight. Like, so I think that another thing might be it's like kind of uncomfortable, which is why no one gets there. Like, I mean, the thing is, if your waistcoat or vest isn't like snug and slim like that, it's just gonna add like too much bulk. It's gonna like bunch up underneath your jacket in an awkward way. It's not, and there's gonna be like gaps between your shirt and your vest, and it just doesn't look right.
Yeah, it's just like, I don't know. Like I remember like, wearing like an H&M, and a lot of this is based on like us wearing like H&M or J. Crew stuff and then being like, this doesn't look like being Taylor to me,
Yeah.
and what's the answer there? Proportions. It's all there, man. You know. And so yeah, it just looks too, just like how like a leather jacket, it should end at your waist. And to me, again, maybe
Yeah.
this goes into like what to me a torso is belly button up, and a waist is belly button to like penis. Like that's like the waist area. You know what I mean? Like that's like I don't
So
think it's,
your waist, it depends on how long your penis is. That's that depends
yeah, and you gotta
on where
push
your
it
waist is.
downward, and then it's gonna be like, whoa, look at how long this waist is. One thing we also didn't talk about that I should have added here is obviously button placement, but button distance. That's kind of a big proportional thing because, again, like this is what makes like a 2-button jacket good versus bad. Like if a if a 2-button jacket is like, not only is a button what do you call it, the button placement
Spacing.
on
Yeah.
your body low, but if the spacing is low, it looks weird. Like those old, I can think of like those old
It
like
well,
'80s jackets where like
well,
the
because
button is so low, and then the second one's like right there, and like then like the jacket just ends. You know what I
it
mean?
always makes me think that it's like they forgot to put the buttons and then put the first one too low, and they're like, okay, we fucked up. There's no more room.
Well, like that's what like all just said about like certain like '70s jackets, right? Where like the sack jackets didn't really change in length or lapel, but like, it's like they took if there was like a like machine that they just put three buttons, and like they just put it slightly lower, and they just like put
Yeah.
those in there. And so one reason why sack jackets feel like longer and slimmer or the '60s is because like the buttons are kind of spaced, kind of further apart, and by that like the roll is a little bit different, so it looks visually longer.
Well, because yeah, if you like button up like a sack jacket, it's gonna end up kind of looking like
A
a
Victor- or
weird,
Edwardian
like, yeah,
kinda- yeah.
Edwardian or like early 20s thing with a super high lapel because that's where they originated from.
Exactly. And so like again, like that's kind of something we think about too, where like that's why button placement is so important, and why like certain brands like again we keep picking on J. Crew, but who cares? But like, sorry, Mickey Drexler.
I
You
don't work there anymore.
Yeah, but yeah, like that's kind of like one reason why like those jackets don't just like they look different than like another two-button jacket, whether it's vintage, Ralph Lauren, or even like a modern one from B and Taylor. On the other side, horizontal button placement on a double-breasted is also kind of important too, because that plays into how wide it is. Also, you think, okay, wideness, whatever, you don't want to look too wide, but that plays literally with lapel width, because if the lapel line, if a double-breasted, literally the lapel goes in a kind of diagonal, like a downward diagonal to the button point, if it's too narrow, it makes the lapel look too like vertical. It looks too like
Yeah.
slim, or it looks too vertical, as opposed to like the kind of the width of like the power of a double breasted, where it's supposed to be like very broad looking. And so we
Yeah,
like buttons
I'm-
that are spaced far further apart for that reason.
I'm still very picky when it comes to double-breasted suits. Still really prefer, the like, again, vintage button spacing.
Yeah.
But I mean, yeah, when it's too narrow, it also just doesn't look right. Like if you were to take like the jacket without any buttons and just fold it naturally, it doesn't look like when the button spacing is too narrow, it just looks wrong.
Exactly. And so again, that like literally plays with like how the proportions of the jacket look, because how it depends on how broad you look. That's why like those like vintage ones, or even like the ones from like Milanese style ones, or like the B and Taylor ones, or like the Polo RL ones, or the Purple Label ones that look really good. You'll notice the button spacing is quite wide on it, compared to like the J. Crew DBs or something like that, or I remember like this picture. I don't know if I can find it, but there's a big picture of like the guys from Brunello Cucinelli wearing it, and I swear those buttons are like 2 inches apart, and it's crazy. But like it goes along with like, oh, guys really want like high gorges because low gorges look dated to them. So of course, if you want a high gorge or an upward turned peak lapel, you would need it to be narrow, because you need it to kind of be proportional. So I get it.
Yeah.
It's just bad proportions. Just because it's proportional doesn't mean it's always
And
that
it's
good.
and it's again, it's just drawing your eyes up when I wanted to draw the eyes out.
Exactly.
Up,
And-
not out.
Yeah. The bones, the worms. But also like here's the thing. You can have upward peaked lapels on a wide lapel too. Like you think like these,
can
like the
do
thing
it.
is, like I think these designers always assume like, oh well, that's the only way you can do it. Like, nah, man, the vintage did it, man. There are upward peak lapels from like the 20s, and they're still wide and wide set buttons. Like the thing is, you can do it. You can have a low button, buttoning point, and still have it be harmonious, man. Like you can't, like it literally can't exist. It's not impossible here. Everyone is always like, oh well, if you did that, like yeah, we'll just make the fucking jacket longer, dude. Like you don't have to. You
There
don't
are
have
solutions
hold
to
it.
us.
Exactly.
Someone give us a brand.
Someone just make a tail. I mean, the thing is, they do have them. It's called B and Taylor, and we can't afford it yet. So.
Well,
And okay, so this thing with like, it doesn't just apply to just tailoring. This applies to literally everything we wear.
I think tailoring is the basis for it, because that's it's two garments that are or multiple garments that are meant to be worn to each or with each other. But yeah, we take this sickness into everything we wear.
Yeah, absolutely. Men's wears a sickness, dude.
Yeah.
And we're the fit doctors.
We're the fit doctors, man.
So sweaters, big one here. We've talked.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just like
This is
waistcoats,
a
they
sweater
become
complaint corner.
yeah. Things have gotten a lot like waistcoats because of how long they are. Leather jackets, same thing. We were talking about that too in the leather jacket essay or an episode. But like the sweaters, like you want it to feel like cinch. A lot of these want you want you to the idea is to have a cinched waist in a
Mm-hmm.
sense. And even if your jacket doesn't do that, your trousers should do it. I think Albert, Edgy Albert on TikTok, shout out the boy. He had a good one where it's like you want like a big pant, but you want the place where it should fit you is the waist, which is
Yes.
completely right. And so
Like, yeah, make fun of the Gap like swing dancing ad all you want, but like high rise like baggy with the. I mean, well, this is not the Gap ad. This is more like 40s 50s trousers.
sure, yeah.
Um, but yeah, like super high rise, like with the pleats, with the like wide leg, but then a tight waist. I just that you can't beat that. It just looks
And
so good.
and the thing is, a lot of people don't like it because it's baggy. But here's what you do: you hem it where it drapes fine. It just drapes cleanly.
Hmm.
That's it. Again, solutions are right here, man. Like, you can't have a baggy pant or a wide pant and then have it break all. I mean, there's places you can do that, but with tailoring, like if your thing is clean lines, the answer is to hem it correctly, man. Like that'll fix all of the stuff that you have.
Just
Like
wear
dents and
dress
white bits.
shoes when you go to the tailor. It's that easy.
Yeah. So sweaters should fall into that category where they make your torso feel, you know, slimmer. It doesn't mean the
Hmm.
sweater itself has to be tight, but the ribbing and where it cinches at the waist, where it ends, should be wide and should be cinched.
Yes.
It just looks good. It just looks good when it looks like that.
Yeah. I
Like
mean, yeah, we'll get into this a little bit later, but like I like the silhouette where it's like, kind of like a
blousy on
broader
top.
torso,
Yeah, yeah.
long legs, stuff like that. And I mean, yeah, I just think I think it looks powerful, It's it's
Because
very
it's like they talk about like the male ideal, right? Like the broad chest,
yeah.
kind of, smaller waist, and of course like strong legs. I mean, like the thing is, people don't do that with tailoring. They always make it too
Mhm.
slim. Like again, broad shoulders, waisting, and the
It's
thing is,
easy and you can take it
even
to
if you're
casual stuff too.
even if your body is like not that, the way you do that is with tailoring. You can make the shoulders wider than it has to be. Then
Mhm.
you have more room to work with to make it slimmer. Like you don't have to have it like again, like I think I have that with my ring jackets, but it doesn't hit my actual waist. It's because there's so much excess fabric. So when you take it in, it looks like I have a smaller waist, you know? And anyway, sweaters make it ribbing, and wide ribbing definitely makes it help there.
Yeah.
Sweaters
Also
that are just
deeper V. I
sure,
want
yes,
the deeper V because it shows off. I don't like it when if you're wearing a sweater with a shirt underneath. I don't like it when the sweater just covers up all of it, or even worse, if you're wearing a tie, if you only see the knot. I don't know why. I just always think that looks really lame. But yeah, I just want to see more of what's underneath the sweater.
yeah. And again, like if a sweater is too long, it just looks too big, and I don't
Hmm.
think a long sweater looks good on anybody. Like it just doesn't. It's not great. Leather jackets, we had a whole episode on that. They should end near or a little bit past the waist. Just because the leather jacket is not a sport coat. It's just not long. It shouldn't be long.
Yeah. I mean,
So
there are longer leather jackets, but we're talking about like the double
the
rider
blue
bomber
son
style.
style, I
Yeah.
guess. Yeah, exactly. Um, Now chore coats. So naturally for this one, people want it to be as short as like a leather jacket, where it kind of ends at the hips, kind of, which is what some people like because it's like an overshirt. I personally like my chore coats to be longer because I like it to be a sport coat alternative. That's just me because I like my things to, as I've written in my essay, Ethan's casual, whatever, I don't forget what it's called. But the idea is that everything is based on tailoring for me. And so a jacket that is not a leather jacket or a blouson should be sport coat length. But
Yeah, I mean,
yeah.
I have my Lee denim short coat, which I got from, or sorry, Sears one, which I got from Henrik is like sport coat length, and I like that one. But I also have the slightly shorter one from Mister Freedom, and I'm fine with both. I think I'm less picky when it comes to short coats, but the length does affect how I wear them, and like what pants I like them with, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. I mean, again, it just kind of depends what you want from a short coat. Some people like the short look with it. Again, the thing with like a shorter jacket is it's supposed to like put emphasis on the pants and how long they are. So some people like that. Again, my whole thing is to have it be equal with tailoring.
But I
And
mean, will say like a lot of the like armory, like Blouson jackets,
that's a
I
good
think look kind
example.
of weird.
They
I think
look
they kind
like
of look
a
like
blue
awkward.
sun that goes like that starts to hit near the end or the end of your fly look odd to me.
Yeah.
It makes your stomach look too big.
Everything just like looks kind of off. I always just think it's like have a shorter torso and longer legs. That's like that's just an
Yeah,
easy
well,
shortcut
to give
to.
them credit, right? Like they don't wear their pants as high as we do, so
That's true.
so technically maybe for them it's like perfect, but like nah, man, this is doesn't
Not for
work.
us.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And so there's all okay. So one last one for the garments. Coats should be pretty long.
Yes.
Overcoats. That I don't get it. Like a short coat. It makes no sense. But like you want like the idea behind a coat to me is like dramatic flair, and to be dramatic in my head means drape, and with drape you need more room, and also with more room you need more length. So it kind of again as we said, we're just right about this, and it like make things bigger and wider, man. Come on.
Sometimes
And
when I
longer.
see coats that are too short, I'm like, you're pretending to be a coat. Like you're
Yeah.
not real. You're like pretending. Like it's you're not a real you're not a real overcoat.
Absolutely. It's
It's just like it's just too much like of a fashion thing. And I know I'm saying it's like it should be longer because it looks better. That's a fashion thing. But also it just it appears to be more practical when you look at it. It's a coat. It should be long.
yeah, I don't understand. It's also like, oh well, it'll be too hot. Then don't wear a fucking coat. Like
It's
I
that
don't
easy.
like I don't get this whole thing of like I know we talked about this a little bit in the Discord, but it's like if you want to wear something, wear it, and if you find a reason to not wear it, then don't wear it.
Yeah.
Like you can wear a sport coat, and also like oh sport coats are so hot, then get a better fabric. Like I don't know, man. Like there's ways to get around this, and
There
it's
are
like
solutions to everything.
what do you want to wear, the fabric or the garment? That's a big one. Like it's like oh well like the tweed's so great, okay then wear it, but it's so hot. Like, okay, do you want to wear tweed or do you want to wear a sport coat that day? Like just make a decision which one it is.
Yeah.
So yeah, coats should be long because again this is all about drape, and we love drape. And so here let's talk. I mean the whole thing about this is about proportional harmony, and Spencer kind of coined this idea. So Spencer, if you want to take this away, I know it's similar to button pocket harmony,
Yeah.
but
But no, it's I think I've talked about this before where it's like
yeah,
I mean we've both talked about this, how you want a garment that not only looks good on the body but just looks good by itself.
yeah,
And so this is something where everything on the garment just like works together to like I don't know, yeah, just to work.
yeah, exactly. Because
So this is
there's
yeah
always something
we've
rough when something like I mean it should be like oh yeah that's not proportional to itself, you know.
like we talked about jackets where the button placement is like too low, whatever, not proportional, buddy.
Yeah,
But yeah, you just want to make sure that like the yeah the like this I think this is mostly for me based on like button placement and like lapel shape.
yeah. I mean it's also because like I mean imagine like breast pockets, right? Like if it's too high or if it's too small, it just looks off. And then you know how that compares like with like a wide lapel. Here's a big thing. Most like made to measure like online factory ones, the breast patch pocket is always made too small for some reason. So if you commission it with a wide lapel, it just looks weird to have a wide lapel next to a very
Yeah.
small breast
I
pocket.
think
a
one
breast
thing
patch pocket.
that may be related to is just like people don't necessarily actually use their pockets as much anymore. Where
And redo.
we do, and we've talked about this. But back in the day, when guys were wearing suits or jackets most of the time, it would make sense to have like a larger breast pocket so you could actually store stuff in there. But now, if you're only wearing a suit to a wedding like once or twice a year, if that, when are you gonna use that pocket? You're not gonna
Absolutely.
do anything with that.
Yeah, I mean again like a lot of this stuff, right? Like there's also I don't know like pocket like literally pocket placement harmony, and a lot
Mm-hmm.
of stuff it is so fixable, right? Where like a inharmonious jacket usually is too short. Like most of the time, I haven't seen a jacket where I would wear it and it's inharmonious, and it's the perfect length for me. Usually, it's like it ends at my wrist, or like it's just too short. And so like adding more length to it would fix it. And it would say like okay, because it's like oh you can't make the pocket lower than add more length, so you can do that or whatever, you know. So it's just one of those things where
Yeah.
once you start seeing this kind of stuff, it just kind of makes sense. Where again, like or like Spencer said, like you know, like a it's weird to have like a pagoda shoulder, you know, wide pagoda shoulder and then like a narrow
Mm-hmm.
lapel. You know, like
And I
that's
think,
well, yeah. I was just gonna say that like that's why like Ivy jackets have more natural like have natural shoulder or narrower shoulders in like their 40s or 50s counterparts because it just doesn't make sense to have a small lapel on such a broad thing. You know?
yeah. And I think another important thing about this is just proportions from one garment to another. And I
Oh
mean, this
yeah,
is again, you know, maybe like, you know, you could say this is just like basic like fit or silhouette. But that's the bigger thing. That's the bigger thing for me. And that's like, it's a lot of like snap decisions,
sure.
like as with everything
Give us an
that,
example.
well, you know, it's just like I said before with chore coats. Like I have two navy blue chore coats. One which is like like sport coat length or maybe even longer, and then one which is like a little bit shorter, like a
Yeah.
slightly shorter than I tend to wear my sport coats, and that affects what kind of pants I wear them with. Like I like the denim one more with the like big or cargo like my like World War II cargo pants because the length covers up the pockets a little bit better.
Mm.
But I mean, this is also just like you know, this is more like you see someone and say, oh, their jacket is too long for the pants that they're wearing, or as we'll get into later, when a lot of when guys get stuff like tailored, if they just go to a tailor and say make everything slimmer, then what you end up with is like really skinny legs and just like a too tight like you know top half that doesn't look good. Um, and so most of the time, if you're shopping from if you're like you know going to a good brand or whatever, going getting stuff made from a good tailor, the suit that you get is going to be proportional, and you don't really have to worry about that. But if you're putting together like you know a sport coat and trousers, or if you're getting you know something like ready to wear tailored, then you have to, or if you're wearing something more casual, then you have to worry about it a little bit more.
Yes. Yeah, that's true. I mean, your point about like having garments that match each other is so apt because like I do that too. Like again, I when I wear like my ivy jackets or the ones that look very ivy, where like you know the lapels are slimmer, the button is like wider compared to like my 70s ivy jackets which look more like ring jacket because of like, you know, they just are broader and bigger.
Yeah.
Like I like wearing slimmer pants or even like jeans with those ivy ones as opposed to my wider trousers because it just doesn't look right to have like again a super wide leg trouser with a jacket that's a little bit shorter, a little bit trimmer, that has narrower shoulders because it looks more like, again, it looks more like a tube on top, like or like a cylindrical like rectangle, whatever you want to call it, and then like really wide at the bottom. It just doesn't look right. Where ideally for me, like a wider trouser needs a broader shoulder. So I tend to think with
Mm-hmm.
stuff like that. I tend to wear like if I'm wearing an ivy top, I also like to wear button-down collars because they aren't not as dramatic as my spear point collars. It just kind of makes more sense to wear like a more quote normal collar, as we've talked about
Yeah.
how normal the OCBD is, and you know wearing that with like a more normal tie. So I also like, you know, I wear some of my wilder ties with like wider collars and like broader jackets to kind of like cover up the wildness of the tie, because if I do like a narrow like an ivy thing or whatever, a bold 40s tie just looks kind of weird with that. That's kind of more of a design thing, but like it kind of makes sense also proportionally because ties also changed in proportions throughout the years. um and so, like, yeah, the proportional harmony thing is so important, whether it's across the garment itself or with how you wear it with other things. You know, like there are some jackets I like to wear, like my cropped wide leg trousers with. Again, normal, because the cropped wide leg trouser doesn't really look good with tailored tailoring, but like with a t-shirt, it might look a little bit better. You know, and again, if you look at like, you know, Scott Frazier, you'll notice again the hems are the length is a little bit longer, and that's a good example of like they're really wide but they still end cleanly. And you can see there he wears it with a lot of short torso things because of how proportional it is. He doesn't wear it with like, you know, something. I guess like a super long. I guess he does wear it with long jackets. I guess I don't know, but he's got a good eye for proportion. He plays with it too.
Yeah.
Um, and so menswear with this is kind of vague. Like people don't really talk about proportions in this way, especially with aesthetics. And one big thing that they do say is that sport coats are more casual, so they can be shorter. I don't understand this at all. I don't understand how shorter makes something more casual. Is it because that like bomber jackets are shorter? But the thing is, a bomber jacket isn't a sport coat, so they aren't in the same realm at all.
I
And
guess I could see that you could argue that technically in a sport coat, if it's shorter, you have more range of movement. But I don't think it's going to make that much of a difference, and also I don't think anyone needs it.
also,
It
like,
just
yeah, like I think maybe they're thinking of like 30s sportswear or like with like
Mhm.
riding jackets, which are shorter. But that's like total BS because like there was sportswear like action back tailoring
And
in the
also you're
day, and
you're
they were
not you're not
funnel.
sitting on a horse.
Yeah,
You're
that
probably not sitting on a horse, right? Like you're not gonna be. You don't need a horse length jacket.
exactly. So it's like I want all my things to be the same length. Obviously, different makers and different length can also be kind of tricky too because like depending on how much fabric, like most of my jackets I can grab, but if they, depending on how much room they have in the chest, right? Because if you're very chesty, you need more fabric. So that's kind of one thing. Like a flat garment measurement is kind of tough to base length on. But
Hmm.
anyway, like I want them to like. I don't think one jacket's more casual because it's shorter. It just looks like a short jacket. Like it's not going to be like I can understand maybe if it's like a chore coat, right? And my chore coats are almost jacket length, but they're not like regular, like not like a ring jacket length. And I guess that kind of helps. But it's still not the same thing. It just doesn't make sense to me why people have again the short thing. And you might think, oh, because if it's slimmer, having a long jacket's restrictive. So the answer is to make it wider and have more
There you
room, so the
go.
length
Once
is fine.
again, we're
Like
right.
because it's like, oh, I get it. Like, right, you want more movement in the hips. How do you add more movement to the hips? You make it not slim and you make it, make it longer. So, or you have deeper vents. I don't know, but like, there's a way to get there to have it still be proportional. Because again, it just looks off to me. And if your trousers are slimmer, then I guess a slimmer and shorter jacket makes sense. But who wants slim pants? You know what I'm saying?
Who wants that?
And so one thing too also is like think about like structure as well, and that's kind of something that we've been seeing a lot of lately because as like the 70s is really popular, the 90s as well with like broad padded shoulders, husbands, etc. you know it like the way structure plays on you is also a big thing too. Like I have tried on structured things and it doesn't look the same on me because of how like my body isn't wayfish and thin, so a structured jacket kind of doesn't it feels too restrictive on me, and so I don't get to play with the structure. And the wider you have with structure, the less effect it has. So for example, like
Hmm.
if my shoulders are already broad and my chest is already broad, having like the pagoda shoulders just looks like a regular thing. It doesn't look right to me. But if you play with it by having like a droopy shoulder and like a wider body with some drape to it, it kind of feels like you're playing more into the form. It's about like encapsulating and having clean lines. And so it just, maybe I haven't had the right type of structured jackets, but, it's just, it just doesn't feel the same way. Like I think of my conversation with John, and John is also very skinny. And so he doesn't like how shapeless a like slouchy suit makes him. So he's liking structure lately. And again on like I've had 30s jackets and they look odd on me, that they just have the same effect. And you know going
Yeah.
wider with like a padded jacket and like a 40s aesthetic looks makes me look more boxy than it looks makes me look sharp. So that's why I tend to like kind of lean into the whole droopy aesthetic a little bit more.
I don't
um
mind. I don't like the extreme 30s 40s style shoulder padding, but I do like kind of like a more moderate. I like a little bit of structure. Um, but yeah, I also prefer. I'm also starting to prefer just like a wider chest and wider shoulders in general. Like I don't want it to fit as close to the body as vintage jackets do.
Yeah, and I would say that most of the time you probably also need longer length because
Uh huh.
if it's too like you can have a draped jacket, it's fine, but then when it ends short, again, it makes your body look weird, it makes your hips look weird. Like that's the whole again, hips. Big thing about proportions.
It's about hips.
And so, yeah, again, like shoulder measurements, it's like kind of arbitrary. You gotta try on a lot of this. You gotta try it on to see how it looks on you. Um, and in general, like people have long arms, so jacket length as a hard rule can be kind of jacket length by grabbing it is kind of like a arbitrary rule, so it doesn't work as easily as it does for me. But you can always again try it on and see how it looks, and don't feel like too beholden to something. Um,
Yeah, I think. Yeah, just try everything on.
yeah.
Measurements, just flat measurements, don't mean as much as you might think.
Hopefully, I mean, if it's a brand that you can like play with, that's fine. But yeah,
Uh huh.
it's totally different. And of course, it's still your choice. While this kind of stuff, different eras play into different types of silhouettes. We don't
Yeah.
have to get into every single one because you guys should know it by now. But like I said, like the '30s collegiate thing, flared trouser, kind of like a
And
slimmer upper block and everything. It
well,
just
I was this I was gonna say this is how we tend to think about it because this
yes,
is how we got into menswear. But of course, if you didn't start by collecting vintage clothing, you don't have to think about silhouette and drape in terms of what decade it reminds you of.
but it helps you so because a lot of brands take after some of these things.
That is
And
true.
so that helps you decide what you like, and then that's how you can go. Oh, I can see how that era did it, and I can, because there's,
Yeah,
obviously a brand has pictures, but if you want to see other people, regular people wearing them, you have all of history to do that. So again,
you have
lot,
all of history.
yeah, but I mean, like so you have like the 30s and has like the structured shoulders. 40s you have like the wide but square shoulders. You have starting to get the bold look and the wide leg pant like the 50s. 60s you have it like trimmer. Jackets are shorter, shoulders are narrower, kind of echoing the earlier 20s. 70s you have the opposite, where again the shoulders get broader again. The jackets get longer again to make it more dramatic. The drape is there. The trousers are high but slim, and slim meaning like they're more flared. You can just see that you can compare like a 30s approach to like that look compared to like a husband's approach.
Yeah.
And of course 80s 90s lower buttoning stance, some of them have like longer jacket lengths, wider trousers. And so like again, wide jackets equals wide trousers. There's a lot of proportional harmony at play here, guys. Like that's kind of the secret. And modern tailoring, and by that we mean like mall brands, not like bespoke tailors, it's just not like, I don't know what, it's like a Frankenstein of like bad things,
Yeah.
you know. And
Well, because the problem is, and no offense to most people who shop at these places, but the guys going there don't know what they're doing.
yeah,
And a lot of times, the sales associates, if you're not shopping at like, this makes me sound like an asshole, but if you're not shopping at like a more high end place, the sales associates might not necessarily know what they're doing also. So
yeah, it's just so unfortunate. And I think one big thing is that these mall brands don't understand drape. They just don't do it. And,
hmm
and I would even say some made to measure and some modern places don't do that either. Like they just, the clean lines to them, like it's all about, to them it's like all about correcting mistakes, as in like you don't want to look shapeless. But drape is a shape, and that's cool. you
drape is
know?
a shape.
Yeah, it's just so nice to have like just dramatic flair. Like it's not about being
Absolutely.
correct. It's about having like, yeah, flair. Cartoon characters have drape. You know what I mean? Like even like the slim characters, they just, even like all like, look at those illustrations, man. They just look so clean. You don't get that when like your trousers are so slim that you see the outline of your leg, because your legs don't have drape. Your legs go in and out. You have calf muscles. You have thigh muscles. You have knees. It just isn't like, you don't want to look like a skeleton. You want to look like a fucking like cool piece of fabric, man. You want to look like
I want to look like a cool piece of
you gotta
fabric.
be two tubes, baby.
Um,
You gotta look like a
I want
tube.
to be two tubes. I know that we got a question in our Discord.
Yeah,
Join the Discord if you wanna help shape these episodes. By the
that's
way,
right. Yeah.
but we got a question from Not Green Waluigi. I can't remember his like Instagram username or whatever. Um, about the difference between subverting proportions and just getting it wrong. And I think one easy way is, does it look good? It's
I
like
mean,
it's
yeah,
like
that's
it's hard. Sorry to be vague, and I'm there's an answer in there somewhere, but like it like just gut check. It's just like a gut check.
well, I mean, it's like, I
You
mean, again,
can
like subverting it. Yeah, it's rule of cool at play here. But like, I think of a good example is like in the 20s, you had some guys who had like narrow shoulders, but who were kind of, for lack of a better term, like kind of they've got girth, and so it looks kind of odd to have a narrow shoulder, but then kind of go back out. It just doesn't look right.
yeah
It's similar to like today, where like if you have like a jacket that has too slim of a shoulder, your bone will go past it, and you'll see the end, like you have like a weird shoulder divot, right? So there's a good example of that. One other thing too is like when I was working at Banana Republic, we had like, we got a pleated trouser, and it was cool. It was like wider than normal, but the rise was so low, so it just looked weird. It looked like with a lower rise trouser, because it sits under your stomach, it starts to kind of like dip, because naturally under your stomach your body goes in, right? Like under your, unless you have just a flat stomach, which kudos to you, bitch. But like to guys with a stomach, right, it goes back in. And so if your trousers kind of go in like that, but it's wide, it just looks weird. It looks like it's just like, pull your pants up, man. Like it's just, but
yeah
you can't. And so like a wide leg pant typically needs a higher rise, because otherwise it just looks like you're drooping at the stomach, and proportionally it just looks too weird to have like a wide bottom half of your body but your legs look short. Like it just, I don't understand it. It just looks odd to me.
one good example of a brand that subverts proportion and kind of pulls it off, and we have a note about this, I think Tom Brown. I
Yes.
wouldn't say that either of us would wear it necessarily. We're not
Yeah.
like big followers of Tom Brown as a designer, but he's a guy that like plays with proportion, but it still works because I think I don't know, he has like an understanding. It's like you have to know the rules to break it. So like he understands how everything
It's weird how we're
fits
defending
together.
it, right? I mean,
Yeah.
it kind of makes sense where like his pants are, I don't know if they're short, but they're kind of high, right? Like they're high waisted, and then you have like a jacket. And here's the thing that I learned about when me and Spencer were just hanging out randomly on Discord. This is what's crazy. So even though the jacket's short, it's at least the examples I found have button pocket harmony. So the jacket technically still looks pretty good to itself, because the thing is the jacket doesn't button where it's supposed, like where on your body. It just looks like a shrunken regular jacket, and that's why there's some kind of appeal to it, because it just doesn't look like an H&M jacket that's too short. It doesn't look like that, So it's just so proportional harmony is at play.
Yeah.
It's awesome. And
Because
if
I
you
mean, yeah, you could subvert proportions, but as long as everything you're wearing still looks good together, that's gonna give you like a big step up. That's gonna
and
like that's like most of the way there in terms of
yeah,
looking good.
and I think people understand proportional harmony, they just don't have the words to explain what it is. You know
Which
what I
is
mean?
why
Like,
we have to invent it like Shakespeare.
that's right. And I know no shade to Fred Castleberry, but like when I was looking, like it like I know he's trying to do like the Tom Brown Shrunken Schoolboy aesthetic with like prep, but it always felt kind of weird to me. It's because like the rise of the trouser isn't as high as it should be. The jacket isn't proportional, or it doesn't have harmony. There's just something wrong there. And again,
Because
if you
Fred's
like that,
jackets aren't like as short as Tom Brown.
but they can appear
So
that way because it's like
yeah,
it's just odd. So that's kind of, again, like one reason why. And hopefully all the pictures we have are kind of are good examples there, or bad examples as well. So let's finish off with what we actually like. So I am all about being broad and slouchy. I would say I'm into like 30s styling, but I like the proportions of like the early 40s a little bit more, but without shoulder pads. So I like a broad shoulder, but it's got it's got to be, oh god, I don't know, I didn't even drink
Oh
anything.
no!
I know, man, I gotta get the fit doctor to diagnose me.
Yeah, they got to get the fit doctor over.
I got the chlamydia of the pants.
Oh no, pants chlamydia.
The pants clap.
Oh god, tube clap.
Two tubes, clap clap.
Yeah.
But I've got to have like a wider shoulder because I want to look broad, but I want it to be slouchy. So there's got to be no padding on there. I mean, proportionally, we didn't talk about this, but like I like wider sleeves because I don't like a broad body, but with slim sleeves. That looks weird. That looks really weird. So if you have a wide body, you need wider sleeves. And again, why? dramatic flair when you're moving your arms, dude. You need that
And
excess
you're always
room.
moving your arms.
I'm also always air conducting, man. So you know how
Yeah.
it is.
Anytime you listen to music, you're
Yeah.
just doing it.
I will say I like I wouldn't say I like a lower buttoning point, but I like it to kind of end where my trousers are. That mean
Yeah.
it's lower than the Ivy one because Ivy ones are higher and spaced out more for a sack jacket. But again, broader. I want like more room in the chest. I want room in the hips and everything like that. But the jacket itself, I want room all the way around. But if the jacket is wider at the hips and the torso, the chest, than it is at the waist, you'll still get that like nice tapering. It's just there's just more room, right? So technically, it
Hmm.
does have it. Um, I also tend to like a longer jacket. Now, it's not long by most people's, by like a regular standards, by like looking at history, but it's longer than other people because I want to be able to grab my jacket. But that's not exactly the issue. I want it to go past the fork of the fly at the end, or I want to go past like where my crotch is on my trousers because it's a jacket and it should be long, man. Like it's not a blouson where a blouson ends at the waist. It's a jacket which goes past the waist and
Yeah.
past the
I mean,
hips.
it's also if you like sticking your hands in your pockets or using your pockets, it's just easier if if the pockets are lower.
Exactly. It just makes
It's
sense.
not easy to pocket fist if you're wearing a short jacket.
Exactly. And so obviously that goes along with wanting a wider leg trouser. I like a lot of room. I don't know if I like any specific like leg circumference. I could wear 9, I could wear 10 if you wanted to, but like it just got to be kind of straight. I don't like any tapering. I like to be as straight as possible. And it just kind of makes sense compared with what I like from a jacket. And I like that stuff with jackets. I like that stuff with chore coats, Hollywood jackets, anything that's got like a jacket, like a sport coat esque kind of a thing. I want it to all fit around the same way because I like that
Hmm.
proportion of like a broad shoulder, wide chest, cinched waist, long jacket length, wide trouser with a cinched waist, trouser waist, and I want that to end as close as I can to to the leg, to the shoe, as possible without breaking because I want that clean line. If it's a little bit cropped, that shoe, and I know Waluigi asked about this, the shoe pant interaction. If a wide leg pant is like just too cropped, it looks weird from like a tailoring standpoint. It looks fine from like a casual standpoint. So I will say that there is one thing there. Like if I have a casual pant, I do want it to be a little bit cropped. But that shoe pant interaction is so important because it shows like, it's just it's just a weird visual proportion silhouette thing. And
Hmm.
so I like it to be as close as possible as I can because if it's too cropped, it looks a little too weird. If it's slim and it breaks, it looks odd. So there's like you gotta eyeball it. Like it's
I
there's
mean, I
no.
think like we've talked about this where we're just addicted to like the like Esquire shoe ads where they just got the like hefty cuff and it's just hovering right above the shoe and it's so clean, and that's how I want all my pants to look.
Yeah, it's just I'm addicted. I'm addicted. I said this earlier, but like I knew that I have a lot of pants, but there's just something about you taking a pair of pants that you thrifted or you got to the tailor, and then they give it back to you, try them on, like, oh shit, man, it just the line is
Yeah.
so good, and you don't get clean lines like that without wide fit and a longer length. Obviously, this is also one reason why I go to the tailor a lot, because um the way your trousers will end depend on how high, like how high you wear your trousers and how wide they are, and so sometimes it's kind of hard uh, to kind of do all in one go. So back before, I would start to do trousers in increments. Where like, okay, I would fix the waist so I know where it would end. Then I would do the hem, or I would taper them first, and then I would do the hem because I wanted to know exactly where the trousers would fit. Because if you do all that too early, it might mess up one of the other components of that alteration. But yeah, that's kind of just what I like. Yeah, Spencer had it right. The clean lines, um,
Hmm.
of how the trouser just, it's about like things should hang, and jackets should hang from the shoulder. They shouldn't like jackets shouldn't have their shape because of how tight they fit around your waist. They should fit from like the top down, and trousers are the same way. Where a trouser should just hit at the waist and then just drape cleanly, just straight down, man. If a trouser is has is hanging because of how tight they are around the hips, that's weird. You know what I mean? Like it should just drape from the highest point it can from the garment.
Hmm.
But that's me. Well, Spencer, what do you like?
I think I'm very like I think I have pretty similar tastes because
Of
again we
course.
both kind of have similar background in terms of like where we started buying tailoring. I also prefer kind of like a slightly modernized or updated version of the 1930s silhouette. So I like I like the kind of proportions of like early 30s jackets, maybe with the length of like like a 50s or 60s jacket. Um, I prefer like a little bit of shoulder padding, but not anything extreme. I like, I guess just like broader shoulders, a little bit of shape in the waist, but not anything crazy.
Hmm.
Wide legs, and like Ethan, I also really like it when my waist buttoning point or the buttoning point of my pants matches up with the buttoning point of the jacket, because I just really hate when you can see that little triangle of shirt or whatever
Absolutely.
underneath. And that's also, this is, longer jackets help with that too, because even if those 2 points don't match up, if you have a longer jacket that fits right, the fabric is just gonna lay over itself, the
Well,
corners are gonna be closed.
you need more room in the jacket. You need to have a wider fit
that's
because
that's what I'm saying.
if it's
Yeah,
too slim, then
it has.
it's not going to close together. You know what I'm saying?
But
So
yeah, I just wanna make sure that that's covered. um and then yeah, with just a higher rise pants, like I said, I really like the 1930s kind of like the silhouette that you're supposed to get from those suits, which was kind of like inverted triangle, like pyramid torso, whatever.
and then just like two
Very
tubes.
like broad, and then yeah, just wide legs
They go
with a high
straight.
rise.
Yeah, they go straight down.
Yeah,
Exactly. And one thing too, as I'm finding out about this, as I'm writing about like trousers and different things I'm trying out with made to measure brands and etc. Wide leg pants don't always have to be super big. They can be straight and look wide. Like I think like some people might argue that husbands has like a wider leg compared to some people because there's a lot of drape to them. So maybe it's not just about wide legs. It's just about having like a good, nice, clean drape. Because
yeah,
even right now, so as I wrote about that you guys have read already, I wrote about the Lords of Wool trousers that I made, and I actually started to make them a little bit slimmer in the thigh area to kind of reduce the taper, because they were they're pleated so they're wider and they kind of come in. They're still wide all the way around, but there's because of the pleats it's wider at the top than it is the bottom. So I want them to be straight but still wide, and so taking out a couple of centimeters from the hips or the thighs more specifically might help me get like again a maybe less baggy, less roomy, but still wide and straight. So that's something I'm kind of I'm still figuring it out. Um, but yeah, I mean, there's a reason why this stuff has always been around. Like you look at like World War II, like the chinos, even like OG 107 still have nice, wide drape to them, and it's just for us looking as clean as possible, especially with tailoring. But even with
hmm
casual stuff, Spencer, you've got like those wide leg dungarees.
yeah.
It's great to have it there too. Like there's a reason why like Patagonia baggies are great. Like there's a big thing to mention. Like we don't like the chubby, those tight shorts. We like Patagonia baggies because they're like wide. They can be the thing is they can have a short inseam, but they're still wide. Like it's
hmm
still there, right? Like there's still a lot more drape and dramatic
You
flair
can
to
have
them.
it both ways. It's that easy.
Exactly. Like I mean, you can
I
have
just
shorts, but they could still be wide, man.
The clothing brands, the tailors, they just need to press the good button and start making good stuff. It's super easy.
Exactly. Press it, make it good, baby. I mean,
Yeah, just press the good button.
I'm talking like all. We didn't talk about like shirt collars as much because that's kind of much more of like a aesthetic choice. But like again, like
hmm
a big shirt can just be tucked in, baby. Like and it's more comfortable. And if the sleeves, if the cuff, if it fits your shoulder, if it's your wrist right, and it ends there, it's fine. It's just like
Yeah.
having the right hem on a trouser. It can be baggy or roomy as you want, but if it hems right, it'll just lay cleanly. If Because some people, I think, if your cuffs don't fit your wrist or they're too long, of course it's gonna look bad. I think with everybody, everyone always says like, oh, it's too big, too much, whatever. As soon as I like fix like the cuff to end right, they go, oh, it looks clean. I'm like, yeah, fuck yeah, because the hem is so important to the proportions and
Yeah.
silhouette here, So try that out. Like I think I remember like when I took Adam and I put him in a size like 52. And he's like, oh, well, like I measured a 48. I'm like, yeah, but you should wear a 50 or a 52, man, especially with like suit supply stuff. And he was like,
Don't
oh,
look at what the tape measure says. Look at what your eyes say.
yeah, look with your eyes, bro.
Yeah.
But it's like, so when I put him in the jacket, he was like, oh my god, like it looks so big. I literally folded his cuff in because on a jacket, right, if the jacket is roomy, it will lay cleanly. If it's too tight, you'll see the wrinkles, but if it's too big, of course you'll a big jackets, when they hang, there's no wrinkling because it just goes straight down. But where you will see wrinkling is in the sleeves, right? Because if it's just too big, right, it starts to catch on like your thumb and whatever. So what I did is I just folded his sleeves in, and he goes, oh shit, the jacket looks good. I'm like, yeah, because I fixed a place where there's supposed to be proper drape, wrinkles and breaks stop drape from happening. And so fixing that is one easy step to see how good something can look with a nice wide fit. And so even then, if you're ever trying on a jacket at a thrift store and you're like, oh, this is too big for me, but the length is good, the shoulders are good, fix the sleeves, you might be like, oh shit, this is pretty good.
Yeah.
So
you're watching that video of Critical shopping for Tom Brown suits, and it was so funny because he was trying on like 2 pairs of pants, and one of them was like 6 inches too big in the waist, and the other one was just like unfinished, so you had to get him hemmed. And he's like, man, I don't know which pants to go with. Like the other, it's
just hem them, bro. My god,
listen to our podcast, man. It's
Critical.
It's simple.
Come on. Well, hopefully you guys have a better understanding of how we think about proportions and how it applies to our our preferences here. You can always read the essay at a little bit of rest.com, where I attempt to write
a lot of pictures.
That's
You'll
right.
be able to see. Just look at what works. Figure out how this all works.
Absolutely,
it's your job.
And this is our first episode of 2021. But hey, man, we've got a lot. There's always a lot of things for us to talk about. I'm glad we still do. But if you guys want to talk to us and can maybe shape this episode just like Waluigi, well, not green, not so green Waluigi or whatever. Sorry, buddy. But just like him, you can go to patreon.com/downdirection, all spelled out, and join us for $5 a month. Helps us keep the podcast going.
Yeah.
We split it 3 ways.
The Discord's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Discord's a lot of fun. People are selling stuff in there. People are buying stuff in there.
That's right. I don't want to brag, but we got a lot of great guys who work across different parts of the industry to kind of help us out,
That's
you
true.
guys out.
Yeah, if you need like it is really a great place for advice. We have a quick question section. If you have any questions about tailoring, people do get to those very quick. I was kind of worried that would be like, oh, maybe no one's ever going to respond to these, but if you post in quick questions, you will get a response.
QQs, baby. QAnon.
QQs. But yeah, lots
Q
of
drop. Yeah,
a great knowledge base.
Go to Patreon to get our latest Q drops.
All the Q drops are here now. We're gonna go to Dealey Plaza.
That's right. Well, for $10 a month, you don't get anything extra other than like also all patrons get a bonus episode that's about a movie.
Yeah.
But for $10, we do thank you personally. So thank you to Jarrett Colian, Austin Malott, Shane Curry, Philip Regard, Audrey Jessica, and James Devanzo. We appreciate you guys so much for being our top tier patrons for so long. And a lot of them, according to this list, have been here for like about a year. Look at that, 2020.
Loyal,
loyal people. So again,
we love you guys.
We appreciate you guys. We'll be back.
We'll make that
what
parasocial relationship happen?
Exactly. We're your friends. We are your friends.
Real friends.
Remember that movie, We Are Your Friends? About the
DJs.
The DJs, yeah, EDM shit, man. My God. We'll be back in 2 weeks for another topic. We don't know what it is yet, but we'll see you later. Thank you, MJ. Bye bye. Hey, MJ, say goodbye.
Bye bye.
Thank you.
Bye bye.
I'm MJ.
I'm MJ.
Is that Grover at the end of this podcast?
I'm the monster at the end of the podcast.
There we go. Full circle, baby. That's right.
We came full circle.
Deliver all the time. What does two tubes sound like?
Bye bye.
Bye bye.
I'm two tubes.
Oh no.